Today, we're going to be talking about time blocking. Time blocking is a great time management strategy where you don't necessarily have to plan out what you're doing every single day and starting from scratch. It's a fancy term for something like after school, I eat a snack, or I do my homework right after school. These are time blocking language that you may use, but really what we're trying to do is set up some type of consistent schedule for you so that you don't always have to think about when you're doing things. The more you set yourself up to make choices of what to do, the more you're setting yourself up to procrastinate, because if you have to choose between I want to watch things on YouTube or I want to do my homework, you're going to often end up trying to choose the more desirable thing, the more fun activity. Now, the beauty of time blocking is that you set up consistent schedule that builds out the time you may need. So for example, when you get home from school, if you know that you're typically hungry, you want to block off time for your kind of unwinding after school. So this might be, I'm going to have a snack, I'm going to watch some TV. Now, that's great and all, but if you don't block off how long you're doing, that could spill over until dinner time. And then before you know it, it's already 9 p.m. and you haven't started your homework. So the key piece of time blocking is really trying to map out when you're doing things. So as a student, you're going to have some consistent things that I highly recommend you map out and you block out. Now, quick tip to all the adults listening, these tactics can work for you as well. Just adapt it towards more adult-oriented tasks. So as a student, what are some things that come up? Well, first of all, you know when your school day ends. That happens every single day. You may know what some of your weekend requirements are. But let's start off talking about a typical school day. So let's say you finish school around 2:30. You might have after-school activities, right? So that 2:30 till 3:30 time might be eaten up. Maybe you have sports and it goes a little bit later. But understanding what a typical day is and when you get home is important to being able to schedule out when you're doing the things you need to do. So if you have after-school activities, maybe that's your time block for after school, and you don't get home until 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Now, if you know that you're consistently hungry, I know I used to walk home from school and then I'd make a top ramen for myself as an after-school snack. Build in that time. So now instead of starting and being able to be productive at 4 o'clock, now we're really looking at 4:30. Well, now the next question to ask yourself is, when do I typically have dinner? So if you typically have dinner around 6 p.m., well, now we're looking at 4:30 till 6 p.m. That's an hour and a half. What can we do then? So we have a couple of options as a student. Maybe you have homework you need to do. Maybe you have chores you need to do. But what you're doing is you're picking out the times that you're typically going to be doing this. So maybe your 4:30 to 6 time block is for homework. Now notice the key there. We didn't say what homework yet. This time blocking technique is not meant to replace planning. It's not meant to replace what are your to-do lists. It's meant to give you the structure so that you know what you need to do. So homework, 4:30 to 6, maybe that's sitting down, mapping out what you need to do, but you're dedicating time to doing that work. Now, typically, an hour and a half is going to be enough for homework and studying and things like that. So you'd block off time for dinner, and then you'd have an after dinner productivity block. So that might be a 7 to 8:30 p.m., let's say. But what we did there, by blocking off that time for a consistent daily schedule, you're removing the hurdle of always having to think about it. Now, I know you may be saying to yourself, well, what if I don't have it 3 hours of homework every night? Great, you have found time. This concept that you've already blocked off the time to be productive, but now you don't need to be because you got all your work done. So it's always better to carve out that space, Now, you want to do this throughout the rest of your day as well. So when do you need to start getting ready for bed? What about chores around the house? And this is how you piece together your schedule. One thing to try and help motivate you guys to actually using this time blocking is you should also block off time for personal time, for things that you enjoy. And so this way you can see that in your more consistent daily schedule, you do have time carved out for personal R&R time. But keep in mind, maybe you have midterms and you have tests, you might need to give up some of that personal time because you have more. So it's the give and take where you carve out this time. Sometimes you're going to have less work and you'll have more free time to do what you want. Sometimes you're going to have more work and you're actually going to need to bleed into some of that personal time. But it is that balance of the give and take. Hope this helps out as you move into the new school year. I highly recommend setting up a time blocked schedule before things start getting tough. This way you stay ahead of things and it doesn't creep up on you where you dig a hole for yourself and you find it very hard to dig out. For more tips, keep listening in. We'll be sharing more throughout the year.